Hi, I am Yaroslav Sovgyra, Head of ESG Risk, Lloyds Banking Group. Well, first of all, banks need to determine the place of ESG risks in their risk management frameworks. Is it a principal or cross-cutting risk? Principal risk, one which is managed separately, and cross-cutting risk, one which is included into all other risks. And then banks need to have a comprehensive set of tools to identify, measure, manage, and report ESG risks. First of all, they should have a taxonomy of ESG risks to identify them, then a set of models to measure the impact of ESG risks on expected losses. And that is especially true for climate risk, by the way. Also, banks should have ESG scoring assessments to rank all the ESG risks for counterparties and transactions. And finally, data and management information to monitor and report the ESG risks. And banks really need to have all this in place if they want to fully integrate ESG risk into their decisions. Banks actually face several key challenges when they are integrating ESG into their strategies. First of all, evolving regulatory landscape and expectations. When new regulations are announced or expected to be announced, banks need to adapt their priorities and redirect their resources to address these challenges. Secondly, organizational setup. In other words, who owns ESG risk? As I just mentioned, ESG risks could be treated as either principal or cross-cutting, and it is much easier to identify a single owner of principal risk, which is separate, than owners of cross-cutting risk. For example, greenwashing is a cross-cutting risk, and many banks do not have a single owner of this risk today. Stakeholder engagement and management is another thing. Quite simply, one must have their key stakeholders, especially from business, on board when contemplating major ESG initiatives. And finally, resources, both financial and headcount. With limited resources, it would be challenging, to say the least, to achieve a good degree of integration of ESG risks into the bank strategies. One key theme which comes to mind is a move from climate risk to wider ESG risks, especially in the EU, where this trend is very visible in the drafts of upcoming regulations. In the UK, focus is beginning to shift from climate risk to climate plus nature, and there are expectations that PRA will start focusing on nature in addition to climate as soon as this year. And by the way, unrelated to regulatory developments, there is now a big drive for quantification of climate risk impact, not only at the portfolio level, where it gets reflected in the ECL and ICAP calculations, but also increasingly at counterparty and transaction level. And finally, of course, FCA just published a new document on greenwashing, so this theme will also get a renewed focus.